sorting through the pretenders. And so Mel's got this hole on his property.
All right, you guys. We got some fun in the house today. We're going to take a little investigative journey down a hole a very deep rabbit hole. And anyway, I'd like to welcome you to the Unrefined podcast. And I am one of your hosts, accompanied by the insightful Lindsy Waters.
Hey.
And the ever so brilliant BT Wallace.
Hey.
And we're going to jump into this episode as we unravel mysteries, share perspectives, navigate the rich landscapes of the seen and unseen. And you guys, this is going to be a fun one. I want this to be a fun one because it's just so crazy. I feel like I need to give the audience a little backstory while we're even doing this. And then we can just jump in and talk about the narrative behind it. I was watching a podcast. Actually, it was a real podcast, and they had talked about it. I don't know how long they talked about it, but they were talking about it and stuff back and forth. And sometimes other places give you inspiration. And it was a Friday. I think it was a Friday. Well, down here in the South, Art Bell comes on Coast to Coast in the evening before the late Coast to Coast with George Norrie comes on. And as we get into it, you'll understand the purpose of this. But Art Bell is very integral into this story. And what was so uncanny about this is I saw that reel, I saw that stuff, and then the next day, dadgummit, if it wasn't Art Bell talking about Mel's Hole on the show that I had just heard about, I was like, wow, this is just weird. So I talked to the guys and we're like, hey, man, maybe we need to do it. So we dove into Mel's Hole and wow. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Where do y'all want to start with this? Just I mean.
It's just maybe the basics, the Art Bell story and go from there.
Yeah. Well, give us the Art Bell story. I mean, you listened to, you told us, you listened to the program.
Most of it. I don't know how much of it was uploaded onto this, but so Art gets a fax. I guess this is the 90s. You could still fax right. Someone like Art Bell with your story.
What's a fax?
And people start, at least one pretender calls in and he asks him, all right, give me the last two digits of the fax number or something like that. And the guy shows himself to be a fraud and Art calls him out in comic fashion as always. But yeah, eventually he did get Mel on the phone, and Mel, other than sending the fax, Mel Waters, no relation,
you had to put that in there.
Yeah,
I don't know him.
As far as we know, Mel Waters isn't his real name anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, he sent a fax, and Art gets in touch with him and gets him on the show after sorting through the pretenders. Yeah. And so Mel's got this hole on his property, which anybody else bothered by this? People were throwing their trash into. I mean,
they're dead animals.
Dead animals, and just household trash.
Everything,
anyway,
tires
that seemingly, he kept lowering spools of like fishing line in there, and couldn't, at least as far as he could tell, didn't seem like he was touching bottom. And there's a story. This was, I know a guy who said this kind of story, to be fair, but of throwing a dog in there and the guy finding the dog later. But anyway, so it's near, what was the name of the town? Ellensburg?
Yeah, Ellensburg is Washington. It's in Kittitas County, Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, it's near Ellensburg, Washington, and it's just a seemingly bottomless pit on his property. I sensed reluctance in his voice, and again, he faxed, and Art had to hunt him down, basically. So it's not like he was looking for. It sounded like he just wanted some kind of answers. Anyway, by the second show, he claimed that when he had gone back out there, there were military guys. They were saying, "Oh yeah, you can't get to your property here because there's been a plane crash," and he was like, well, what if I go and tell people this or something like that? Like, well, who would believe you?
Right.
So
Well,
yeah,
they also, I mean, we're going to go more in depth in all this that Lindsay's talking about here, but that one of the facts that they threatened him. They said,
yeah,
a drug,
it'd be easy to find a drug lab here
a
because
drug lab here, exactly. Which I mean,
he,
I
well,
love our government, but it sounds
yeah,
like our government. But anyway, go ahead.
he had imported some sort of Native American plants. I think from Nevada, so maybe that's where the other whole story comes in. But we'll get to
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
but
that's important because he was not like a rancher or a what's that show that's out now, Yellowstone. He wasn't some tough cowboy guy or whatever.
yeah,
Like he was kind of a artsy, creative. He made stuff like we'll get into it. He made belt buckles and
hmm
and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but
but
I want to share this real quick though, Lindsay, before you go on. I think it's really important for Coast to Coast is a show that's been on for years, and Art Bell was the first host, and it was one of the groundbreaking pioneer shows on Fringe and just different kind of stuff. And then after Art Bell passed away, George Norrie took it over, and he is actually still the host of the show. But I prefer Art Bell because he was always so candid and like just in your face and would say it like it is. I just didn't want anybody out there to not know what Coast to Coast or who Art Bell
yeah,
was or anything. So keep going.
okay. Well, yeah, I just what all I was gonna say is he did have a lab on the property where he was working with these Native American medicinal plants, and it would have been easy for them to plant something there that some sort of
Yeah.
meth
It could have just
cooking
been marijuana. I mean, there's
or
the land use
whatever or hydroponics or whatever, yeah, there to make it look like he was running a drug
too. Yeah.
lab there. So yeah, and technically he was running a drug lab. It was just legal stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they kind of threatened him, and basically I mean, what could he do? So yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's as far as I got with all of it. I mean, there's a lot more, but yeah. I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
kinda
yeah. We're
summarizing here.
about to break it down because you gave the big picture, which is good. That's what we need. And so between BT and I and you, we can go deeper into the specific things. What's crazy about it to me is it's too unreal to not be real. And
Yeah,
we were talking with somebody yesterday, and she said a quote that we had said in a podcast about you might not have proof, but there's a lot of evidence. And I think that this is one of those examples. There's a lot of just really bizarre stuff that is not pareidolia. It's not stuff reading into it. I think some has come out of it. I think it's become its own urban legend on its own, but I still think that there's a lot of a lot to get out of it. So, but um, I mean, let's just start with him finding the hole. Apparently, the property owners before him knew about the hole, and why
mhm,
nobody's ever tried to find them and ask them about it has baffled
yeah.
me. Um, and then the description of the hole. Who wants to?
Well, it was a deep hole. It if I remember correctly, it was like rock on the outside. I think there was some sort of covering that I want to say that
No,
had been put over
it
it.
wasn't a covering. It was like there's this liner around the inside
Okay,
of the hole. And the hole was 9 foot. That's significant.
yeah, it's like 9 foot 9 inches, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know how else to describe it than that.
Other than the fact that when he first found it, he started doing experiments with it, and like my favorite one of them was the lifesavers. he
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. This idea he got apparently when he used to fish or something. They would just to make sure nothing just like grab the bait. I guess they would put lifesavers down, and the water would dissolve the lifesavers. So he wanted to see if there was water down there
right.
somewhere, and he sent it down pretty far. Can you remember exactly how much it was? I can't.
Oh
But
yeah,
when
I
he
know.
brought it up, the lifesavers were still there, so there was no water.
Oh, okay, yeah, it was 15 miles total.
Yeah,
When he
wow.
finally got through all of it, I don't know all the feet, but I think it was 60,000 feet or something. But But what's another crazy thing about all this is physics-wise, you can't have a hole like that. I mean, 2 reasons. Stuff starts burning up that deep,
Yeah, magma
and
and whatnot.
and just physics-wise from weight, pressure.
Mhm.
We encounter the same pressure going down holes in caves that we encounter going down in water, and people don't realize that. It's
Right.
just air pressure.
Right.
And and there's been skeptics that have said those lifesavers or whatever he had down, they it really did melt off and they fell in. And anyway, but I just what fascinated me about all this is just Mel. I mean, just the fact that who is Mel? It's like,
Mhm.
who is Mel? What is this about? At the end of all this, there is no Mel Waters that ever lived in Ellensburg or in Washington.
Right.
Um, But we all know how, certain three-letter agencies can clean up stuff and act like people don't exist. And that's another caveat I want to put out here, you guys. We're not saying this is true. We're not buying it all hook, line, and sinker. We're coming at
Yeah.
this. We're coming at this skeptically. But like I said, there's just a lot of really bizarre evidence out there. My big question, and we can go into more details with further down Mel's hole. My big question is, what do you guys think that was? A portal? What are y'all's opinions of what is this hole? I mean, what could it be, even supernaturally? If we had supernatural as an explanation instead of being naturalists, what could this be?
Yeah, I mean, portal's the only thing I can think of. Um,
Well, I was looking at some of these other people. There's all sorts of people who are interviewed, about the fame of this hole, this bottomless pit. And so, I mean, all sorts of people come forward and say all sorts of weird things. Some of the weirdest was that there were reptilian humanoids from another planet, a desert planet or something, and they lived underground.
Yeah.
And, well, the underground peoples, that matches with a lot of indigenous peoples of America mythologies anyways. So that's not that far of a stretch, but the idea that they're from a desert planet and so they decide to live underneath the earth where it's kind of colder to a point, and then it starts
mhm.
getting obviously warmer, as you were saying earlier, Brandon, about certain depths, we start getting heat and pressure and things like that. But if you're from a desert world, why would you want to live underground where not only is it colder, wetter, and higher pressure than what you're probably used to? But that's just the skeptic in me looking at that going, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
But if it's a portal, like the idea that it passes from our world through a Stargate, think, Stargate SG-1 or something, you just think of that.
Interdimensional.
Yeah.
Interdimensional.
Through a dimensional gate or through a universal gate and connects to a different planet somewhere else in the known cosmos. Okay. Well, then that's why it was so far for it to fall. He had to go through whatever to reach water or something like that. There's just all these interviews, all these people started stepping forward. I mean, it's near the Yakima Indian Reservation in Washington State anyways. And there's stories about the peoples of the Yakima going, and they know about it. They stay away from it because it's probably some kind of interaction between our world and the next.
Well, yeah, and pets, animals avoided it like the plague.
Mhm.
He said more than once that his dogs, who followed him everywhere he went, would not go near the thing.
They're petrified of it. Yeah. Well, that leads me to I want to give a little narrative here for a few minutes about it too.
Yeah.
It goes in more into Mel's story. Mel actually was connected with some I don't know what tribe, but a group of Native Americans in Nevada, and they were telling them we know about a hole that's just a lot like yours, and so they get out there and there's a hole, and it's 9 foot. And it has instead of having brick or clay or whatever down a few feet around the top of the hole, it actually has metal. And anyway, that was really interesting. What was wild about it is it wasn't on the Indians' res, so it was actually off of it, but the Indians, of course, knew about it. And there's a type of people that are actually could be a podcast on their own because they're fascinating. The Basque in Spain, and they have a language that's unlike any other language in the world.
Yeah.
There are just a lot of mystery surrounding this ethnicity of people. Well, they had moved to this area in the 1800s, and so of course he connected with them, and of course they were like, "Yeah, let's check it out and stuff." And they did all kinds of experiments. One of them being putting ice down Mel's hole, or not Mel's hole, down that other hole in Nevada. I don't know what it was named. It could be Devil's Hole. I don't know in particularly, so don't quote me on that. But whatever the hole was, they put ice. They put a bucket of ice on the top, and they put ice down in the hole. And when the ice came up, it had different properties than the ice that was already up there. It was just a strange, warm ice, and if I'm not mistaken, it had flammable aspects about it. Do you remember that? Either one of you guys remember that story?
No.
Yeah, it it had these weird, like it could burn. It was like ice that could burn, which we know.
It's like dry ice almost.
So yeah, kind of. Except dry ice would instantly freeze you, and you could do whatever. But this wasn't like that. It could be touched. Well, interesting enough, this is a fascinating story. I love this part of it. Is this one of those Basque guys takes some stuff and that ice, whatever you want to call it, the goop, and he puts it in his wood burning stove in his house. And man, it heats up his house and it won't go out. It's defying physics. It just the law of what is it, thermodynamics? It's defying physics. And then eventually he starts to notice. I mean, if anybody, you guys, I mean, I know BT knows about it. We don't know about it because we're down south. But when you have a wood burning stove and you're up in cold areas, when you burn it, you have to put some kind of kettle or some kind of something to humidify the air because it's dry. Yeah. Do y'all do that, BT? Do y'all have a wood burning stove, or y'all just?
We do. Yeah, we use a wood burning stove. For
Okay.
heat.
Yeah. Do y'all do something to humidify it?
No.
Your air when you use it?
No, we're in Oregon.
No. Okay.
The air is naturally humidified.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. In the part of Oregon you are. Now I have a buddy in Spokane who had to. It was drier over there on the eastern side, and so they would put a kettle with water. Anyway, this Basque guy started very slowly noticing he was really thirsty and it was really dry in his house, and he noticed that the steam that was coming out of the kettle was like going down to the wood burning stove, like to the entrance of the wood burning stove. It was sucking the moisture out of the air.
Okay.
And anyway, it got to the point where he had to move out because it started drying out his whole cabin, and it basically started becoming sawdust. All the wood stuff was just becoming brittle and dust and all this kind of stuff. And then later on, the wood burning stove that stuff was in started going through the cabin, was attached to it, and then it started building a hole. And so they were all like, okay, well, wow, maybe this is how these holes get started.
Wow.
And so they were able to go down several feet, and it ended up being like 5 or 6 feet before they got it, and they were able to get it out. But in the meantime, they called in some specialists, which was, it's like I tell my kids and my wife, I said, it doesn't matter if you did it or not. If you get arrested, always call a lawyer. Don't trust. Even if you're innocent, call a lawyer. So I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but they called the authorities in, and then it got hushed, and they were able to get it out and all this kind of strange stuff. But this was after Mel came back from Australia, which will take us back to Mel's hole.
Yeah.
That time that Lindsay was talking about, where he was met with the military, they offered him $250,000 a month to go. And so he took off to Australia. Apparently he squandered the money on different things, and he wanted to come back and see his family. And as soon as he got back in the United States, he was on a bus, and long story short, supposedly he lost time. He woke up in an alley in San Francisco 15 days later with his back teeth gone and his belt buckle gone.
Weird.
Well,
back teeth sounds like Tommy Knocker stuff. I thought about Tommy Knocker.
Yeah, I know. It's just bizarre, occultic stuff. But so that happens, and he doesn't give up, and because he's on a mission, and that's what's so cool about this. When you listen to him, because I've heard excerpts, when you listen to him on the Art Bell show or other stuff, he definitely he sounds trustworthy. He sounds like Lindsay said. This story is just like it's too cray just to come up with. I couldn't invent this,
No.
I mean, and so
at the very least, it's either a total lie or it's true. It's one of those things,
yeah,
I mean,
and if we're true scientists, which I hope we can embrace that, like what scientists before the Renaissance and the Reformation, all that the scholastic era, then we can involve the supernatural in true science, and that can be an option. And it's just a fascinating aspect. But Mel ended up, after he came to, he was on the show a time or two more, and then he just disappeared, and Art Bell was never able to find him again. And but just one little side story that I think is really interesting is he found some dimes at Mel's hole. I want to get the dates right. I should have made notes, but I think they were dimes that were printed, coined 1933. Now, do you guys know who's on a dime? Y'all know what president it is on a dime?
It's FDR, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Roosevelt. Yeah. The interesting thing about that is do you know the year that FDR died?
45.
Yeah, but here's the gist. The dime was 4 years earlier than his death, and they never make currency with live presidents.
Yeah, the dimes were from the 1930s, and FDR didn't die till 1945.
That's what it was.
Yeah, they were 30s dimes, and before FDR was on there, it wasn't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen. You don't get put on currency until you're dead. I mean, that's just reality. And so, anyway, what was cool about it is he took these dimes and he made belt buckles with them. One of the belt buckle that was stolen had one of those dimes on it. And he found a guy. He met him at like some kind of a trade show. Remember, this guy's a creative guy. I don't know him from Adam, but I just envision this like artsy kind of beatnik kind of yo man kind of type thing. And it was at a show and he saw one of his belt buckles that he made on a guy, and he told the guy the story about the dime and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the United States Treasury Department shows up at this guy's house and takes the dime and the belt buckle away from him. And sure, it was the United States Treasury Department. We all know. Anyway, so they take the dime away from him. But what's interesting about it is there's still belt buckles out there with this dime on. I mean, unless the United States Treasury Department has collected all of them, we don't know. The interesting thing about that is when he was in Nevada, when Mel was in Nevada, one of the I think it was Native Americans. It might have been a Basque. I don't know. One of those two gave him. He said, "I felt like that you needed to have this," and it was one of those dimes that they had found in Nevada. Not at Mel's Hole, you guys, in Nevada. So they found these dimes in two specific places,
separate places.
You think there may be kind of a connection there that?
Oh yeah, well I mean
linked up.
Yeah, if you find and they took it to a coin dealer, and the coin dealer was like baffled. He was like, "This is bizarre. This is like Mandela, one of those kind of." It's like there's just no way that this dime, and it's printed, and it was like a print. I don't understand all the things about coins, but it was special. There was just no way, and it was no way it could have been counterfeited either. So,
yeah.
But
well, hey, here's a place I'd like to go here. All right, back to the assuming it's true. The story of the dog coming back.
Let's go there. Let's go there.
Ground's gone sour. Pet cemetery story there.
Yeah.
Hole's gone sour.
I can still see him saying that.
but yeah. All right. So assuming that's true, you put something in the hole and get it back different than it was, like alive versus dead, and the ice down in the Nevada hole with the Bosks.
Yeah.
The ice had different chemical properties, and let's speculate a little bit about that. What do y'all think that could be? I don't know.
All right,
well, we even start there.
I could give you the party line. The party line, and this is another story that you opened up. You opened up a hole here, pun intended, for me to walk right through. There's a story when he was still with the Basque that they, they're shepherds usually, and they know a lot about sheep. So they took a sheep and they put it in a cage, and they started to lower it. Well, one of the Basque was willing; he was volunteering to go down this hole, and everybody thought he was nuts, and they wouldn't let him. So they had to be satisfied with it with a sheep. Okay, now this is the mind blowing part. I mean, super mind blowing part. Okay, Mel had been diagnosed in early 2000s with esophageal cancer, which it's a fast spreading cancer, but it's not always terminal. What happened is the sheep. Is it sheep? Is one sheep a sheep?
One sheep's a sheep.
Okay. Edit all this out, Sandy.
Keep that in, please, Sandy.
Is one? Well, I think about proud foot, proud feet.
No, one sheep's a shoop.
A shoop. A shoop. Right? This is a blooper reel, Sandy.
That's song. All right,
so
doop.
Shoop. Boop. Yep. She might want to leave this in. This is kind of fun, actually. But
could be a good bloopers reel.
Yeah. Anyway, so that they put the sheep in the cage. I don't know what kind of cage it is, and they start lowering the sheep down in there. And the interesting thing about this, and I didn't tell y'all about it, I'm sure you heard about it, is there's been two supernatural things that happen at this hole, other than the animals coming back and stuff like that, is the fact that there's no sound over the hole. So when they began to put this sheep that was going ape crazy over the hole, as soon as they got it over the hole, they couldn't hear the sheep going crazy anymore. Which is, I mean,
sheep are pretty chill from what I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but they're pretty chill.
They're real
when
loud.
They go nuts, then Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, they're real loud. Believe me, we have some down the hill. But what's interesting about it is it was doing, Lindsay, like what all the other animals do, the dogs and stuff like that. It was freaking out with fear.
Right.
And so it was going crazy in this cage. And as soon as they got over the hole, they couldn't hear it. So anyway, that was bizarre. So they start lowering it down in the hole. Okay. They get it down there. Then they start pulling it back up. And of course, they're like, whoa, what? And the sheep is just laying there, it's dead. They pull it out. They began to, they're shepherds, so they began to autopsy the sheep, and they find out it's like cooked from the inside out. That
like microwave.
Like a microwave. Exactly. Well, and that's another side effect I was going to tell y'all about, is that people have seen this black light come out of these holes. It's like, instead of lit out light, you can see, and y'all know what I'm talking about. You can tell a black light coming out of a hole because it blocks other light behind it.
Right.
And another thing is that this hole, at least Mel's hole, did weird frequencies with radios. It would pick up weird signals and weird frequency kind of stuff if you brought a radio near the hole as well. So it has some kind of electromagnetic something or other going on there as well. So anyway, they pull the sheep out. They do an ad hoc autopsy. They go in and they find this tumor that's in there, and they pull it out. They cut it out, and this being comes out.
Oh, geez.
This is where it's getting like. This is where a lot of the alien stuff comes from, possibly.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, Mel swears by this. It looked like a little baby seal once it come out, but it reminded me of Aliens, except the Xeno, whatever it's called, was not a ugly. But anyway, this little baby came out. It looked like a seal, except it had human eyes, and it met Mel's eyes. And now this is still in the Basque area. This is not at Mel's hole. Anyway, it met Mel's eyes.
Right.
Okay. And it's like it started. He said it wasn't really communicating with him, like with telepathy, but he just sensed that it was talking to him. And if anybody's ever heard God, which a lot of our people in our audience probably have, how sometimes God just speaks with your conscience. You just know something, and it's from God.
Right.
And so I'm not saying this is God, all right, but that was what it was like.
Okay.
And so this being looks at it, then it scurries off and goes down the hole. The fascinating thing about this whole story is Mel goes back and he has no esophageal cancer anymore.
Wow.
Whatever this was healed him. So it's like whatever's in this hole is which to me goes back to the occult. It goes back to, it has that dualism of good and bad. It has healing and destruction. It's that.
Yeah,
and
like radiation. I mean,
right.
Well, yeah,
healing and
because we use radiation to kill cancer.
Calling in an airstrike on yourself.
Well, the thing about radiation with cancer is, I mean, and I'm not trying to offend any of my audience, people out there that have had cancer. I get it. Your options, but the chemotherapy and radiation is a battle to see which dies first, your body or the cancer.
Yeah.
So but this was just like, he looked into that weird creature's eyes, and boom, it's like they had some kind of a link, and he ended up getting healed about it. That is one of the ones that really just kind of tilts my brain, and I question, and I would love to see some evidence. I'd love to talk to some of the Basques that witnessed this. Surely they're still around. It was early 2000s and stuff. So, but that goes to what you were talking about, Lindsay. What was this about? The reality is whatever it is, it's supernatural.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it doesn't, like we've talked about in past podcasts, it doesn't mean that there might not be a scientific explanation.
Yeah.
And I've really come to embrace that about some supernatural things. Like, we talked about, I don't remember which author it was, but one man's magic is the next generation science. And I don't know if it was some famous author. I want to say it was Robert Heinlein, but I don't remember who it was. It might have been Isaac Asimov, honestly. But anyway, yeah, that there just blew me away. And then here goes. Mel disappears. He's never been back on the show with Art Bell. People have investigated. At one point in time, before we had Google Earth, we had this a similar type thing that they had. I can't remember the name of it. It basically did the same thing. You could look at the Earth when the internet was just early 2000s, not early or late 1990s.
Yeah,
and you could look at it, and there was a box where the hole was
a white box. Yeah,
a white box. Yeah, and there's several like authenticated pictures of this that were from different people that they went and looked and saw that. And even now, you go on Google Maps and you don't see the hole in the area where it's supposed to be on the ridge that it's supposed to be on. So there was a cover up. That is what really gets me stirred up. It makes me begin to believe some of the validity of some of this. I mean, if I can believe in the Nephilim, and if I can believe in UFOs and Bigfoot, why can't I believe that there's some kind of a portal that, who knows, that they could be all over the place, you guys. We don't know what's under the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, and I tend to lean towards more of a, not hollow earth, but a definitely not solid earth. And there's so many chambers and caves and, all that kind of stuff under the ground. Who knows what's there?
Yeah.
The Native Americans that were at Mel's Hole actually, no, at the Nevada hole, we're talking about there was this ancient being that they talk about that flew underneath that were from another planet. And that might have been the ones that Lindsay was that you, BT, was talking about. It was a myth in their like mythos. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there you go. I just thought it was really interesting that a race of people from a desert planet, and I just happened to be reading Dune right now. It just blew me
Fair
away.
enough.
But Arrakis. And anyway, so but I had this understanding of what it would from that. Herbert really did a good job of really playing it out, what it would be like to live on a desert planet. So what are y'all's impressions? Final words here. So what are y'all's opinions?
Well, I don't know. I mean, just I didn't get to the part. I just listened to, I guess, most of the Coast to Coast episode, the first two that he came on.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot of this other stuff. I didn't get to the part where apparently Mel just can't be found now. That's the most interesting part to me.
Well, he never existed, Lindsay.
Right.
I mean, they can't find a Mel Waters.
Yeah. And he could have just given a fake name for the obvious reason.
Yeah, that was a theory. Yeah,
from the get-go. But this is just fascinating, man. And just the dog story keeps coming back.
His neighbor,
provided that that's true.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Maybe it just reminded me of Pet Sematary, but that's just nuts.
Well, did that not happen at Skywalker Ranch? Y'all refresh my memory. Were there not stories of animals coming back to life?
I'm not real familiar with Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah, I'm not either, not yet. But
I think you mean Skinwalker.
Skinwalker.
Oh, okay, that's Star Wars.
Well, I said it too. So
yeah, it's okay.
No, that's George Lucas. We didn't mean that.
Yeah. Please don't sue us. Anyway, yeah, Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, I just recall in some of my watching of it that there was like strange, quote, resuscitations. I don't call them resurrections, but like resuscitations of animals and stuff.
Yeah, I think looking at Skinwalker is going to be something we got to do too.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And just figure out the angle we want to take at it. You guys at Unrefined, we want to look at things different than everybody else. So that's kind of what separates us from just the status quo. We want to take deep dives and maybe look at things with our 3 brain cells in ways that other people haven't looked at them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if I may, final thought here, kind of, looking at these stories, I mean, this was, this came to us from 1997 and it pops up every now and again, but all of these are quests. They're all journeys. They inner investigations into what we buy, what we believe. It's this journey that, maybe the bravest of us would quiver, hide in fear of, because they're mysteries that defy rational explanation. But I was thinking about here and the other hole and these other places of mystery, because there's several of them. There's one here in Oregon that doesn't make any sense, defies logic. It's kind of like this little place where things roll uphill and
well, all the aquifers. I mean, think about all the aquifers in the center of the country. Yeah.
And the thing is, as we look at this, some people are like, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. And it's like, well, look, we might be madmen chasing after phantoms. I mean, that's, are we really chasing after phantoms? But if we look beyond, we're looking at the surface. We're looking below the surface. We're finding these beacons of light that exist. Is the world really shrouded in darkness? Is there really mystery? Mm-hmm. But in my own estimation, it's this hope, that there is actually mystery in the world. And because there's mystery, it's this guiding principle. It's something that spurs us on. It drives us to look into these. Like sailors in the North Star, just following that star home. And that seems to be what drives us to look and to search and to find these weird little mysteries that make the world different. And, with Mel's Hole, we may never uncover all the answers. Yeah. But we can take solace in the knowledge that it's this pursuit. Right. Yeah. Looking at it, that's the reward, taking the time to look at the mysteries. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, as long as there's mysteries left unsolved and truths left undiscovered, there will always be hope that the world is a place of wonder and possibility. And it's waiting for it to be explored. Yeah. We just have to get up and do the searching and looking. And that was my look into Mel's Hole. It wasn't just, hey, let me listen to a couple of radio broadcasts from 1997 and a couple of podcasts from people talking about it and crazy, alien conspiracies. It's a mystery, it's a puzzle, it's an enigma. And does it exist? Does it not exist? Well, that's just part of the journey.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, man, why not? Maybe I'm saying this to myself because I can still be. I found myself as soon as I heard it. Oh, this is a fraud. This guy wants attention.
Yep.
All the naysayers are right. And then I was like, okay, so don't just lap up whatever people give you, but why not start from just a place of inquiry and neutrality on things at least?
Yes. Right. Yeah. Well, that's skeptics should be.
Look into it. Yeah. Yeah. It's not like a one or the other thing. It's like, hey,
it can be a both and. Yeah. We're real big on the both and on these podcasts. Yeah. I just think that Mel's Hole is part of a bigger picture, to piggyback on what both you guys said, a bigger picture of and it's really funny. We just interviewed a guy that you guys have heard because it'll be released before this one will, and that there's a magical world out there, and I use that in quotes, and I don't use magic in the sense of an occult, say, and just an enchanted world. And I used to like that sword and staff, that re-enchanting the world. I love that phraseology. And two things it does for me is, it's number one, it gives us insight on our warfare, because some of this is dealing with sinister forces. And, if a sinister force is doing something, there's a reason why it's doing something, whether it be a distraction or whether it be something more serious that we stumble upon. And I think we stumble upon a lot of their actions, definitely through God's grace. We stumble upon a lot of their actions, and they get caught, by this. And so I see that's one of the main reasons I see for us to dive into this, and the mystery of it, the enchantment of it. Here's reality. When you begin to investigate and dive into the supernatural, it really leads you to glorify God, that He created such an amazing universe and cosmos, such an amazing, amazing place. And to me, it gives me the same emotion that I feel when I overlook a vista at a mountain, a sunrise or a sunset, and at the ocean or wherever. It gives me that same feeling of joy to know that our God is just so mysterious. He's so big. And like we'll get to probably at a later podcast, he's so weird. And I just love that, because I'm one of the biggest weirdos there are,
Hands down.
And I don't mean that offensive. I'm probably gonna be burned at the stake for calling God weird, but yeah, he is bizarre, and I love it. I love that, and so Mel's Hole to me is just a little snapshot of the bigness, the weirdness, the supernaturalness, the enchantment and re-enchantment of God. So any final thoughts? I'm gonna land this plane.
Nope.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you for an excellent podcast. Thank you for us diving into this, and I appreciate y'all humoring me by talking about this. This is not a subject that we would probably talk about all the time, even though we probably ought to. And it was fascinating, and I love the research that we did on it. I really went in pretty deep, not like Laurel Canyon, but I went in pretty deep, researching it and trying to get stuff that's not just common knowledge that's just out there everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be let me get all my info. I did research. I watched 2 YouTube videos. Which,
there's not a whole lot for us to do except watch a couple of YouTube videos.
Well, I know.
We can't go there because it's blocked off and it's illegal to trespass up there. It's, they talk about the fact that you don't want to do it.
Yeah. I did watch more than 2. I will admit that. But I'm going to go back like Lindsay and listen to the Art Bell.
Yeah. Maybe we can put the Art Bell in the show notes.
Yeah.
For the audience.
So, but anyway, well, thank you guys. I enjoyed this. This was just a fun conversation we had about something fun, and I did really good, you guys. I did not crack up at Mel's hole.
No, you did really good.
Be proud of me. Yeah.
I mean, you got up to your elbow in Mel's hole.
Oh, wow.
Oh, well, we at Unrefined and at Truth and Shadow, and we love you guys. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and supporting us. And remember, stay naturally supernatural.